the latest coming in on the PMC Bank crisis. Now, the ex-MD has made some sensational admissions in his letter to the RBI, which effectively looks like his statement on what really went on. He has told the central bank that the non-performing HDIL loan accounts were not even brought to the notice of the board, and that they hid this information fearing loss of reputation. He's also admitted that due to time constraint, and this gets even more ridiculous right now, due to time constraints, the statutory auditor only checked for incremental advances. And yes, the point about dummy accounts has also been confirmed. He's gone on to say that the bad loan accounts were actually replaced with dummy accounts, fake accounts in their balance sheet, so that all of this is not found out. Utkarsh joins me with more details from this letter. Sensational letter, Utkarsh. And I was reading it, in a sense, he's also justifying it. He goes on to say how HDIL helped the bank in 1986, in the late 90s, in 2008 when there were tough times, and so they had a great relationship, literally admitting that HDIL was their biggest and perhaps the only main account that treated them like a personal bank.
Exactly. In fact, in the letter, he speaks about the fact that how 60% of the turnover of PMC was due to HDIL. But what's the most scathing part of the letter? The most scathing part of the letter is where he explains how they managed to, get on the radar of RBI. And I'll quote that letter where he says that in the year RBI inspection prior to 2015, officers used to check mostly top few borrower accounts reported by the banks branch-wise. Therefore, these accounts did not come into picture, and it was around 2017 onward when RBI started asking for advances matters, and the stressed legacy accounts belonging to this group were replaced with dummy accounts to match the outstanding balances in the balance sheet. He also gives an excuse, as you spoke about the fact that due to lack of timing and given the fact that the bank was so big, the auditors also were not able to really go ahead and find out what's going on. As you said, giving a justification of why they did that, he goes on and says that as the HDIL group had a record of clearing their dues with certain delays, we continued to report their accounts as standard accounts. And the concealment of information from the board, auditors and regulators was due to the fear of reputational loss. Now remember that this is the letter which he wrote to RBI after a whistleblower went and reported the NPAs, and we've been told that it is one of the sanctioning committee people who went to RBI and said it. But most important is it also raises a lot of questions on the way RBI has been auditing. We all remember the Nirav Modi saga. Yes. We all remember how the audits were not able to catch what Gokulnath Shetty was doing. It's once again the same thing. Is RBI audits really worth it, and do they really need to work on it, given the fact that it's so easily that the audits and the auditors can be fooled by any of the banks and branches?
Yes, absolutely. Utkarsh, you've really asked the right question here, which is, what is the RBI doing, and are they really doing a good job of these audits? What about the Register of Cooperative Societies here? Where were they all this while? If the bank has managed to create dummy accounts and is admitting that the statutory audits only looked at incremental loans and not at the history, then that is a farce of an audit, and we have not learned any lessons from the Punjab National Bank crisis. Utkarsh, thanks so much for bringing us this breaking story. Now, on this show tonight, viewers, and on Mirror Now, perhaps the only national channel that's been constantly tracking this story, and this is a story that needs to be told to you every single day, because all of us are bank account holders. All of us are bank customers, and most of us don't really bother to go into the health, the financial health of our bank. Who are they lending their money to? Just what is the central bank doing? Now, here are the angles that we've got for you. Angle number one, how the bank failed the depositors, is what we explained to you. We brought to you, and I will highlight this again, how this entire rot was actually revealed. The ex-MD's massive cover-up bid, part of which you just saw, and Utkarsh brought it for you. Angle number four, the builder HDIL. We'll tell you about that builder who triggered this entire mess, and about their business and how that's gone down. Angle number five, we dwell into the fact of who regulates cooperative banks, just who is accountable here. And of course, we're getting you all the updates on this investigation. But I want to start with who regulates these cooperative banks. Just where does the buck stop? Cooperative banks, viewers, are registered under State Co-op Societies Act. They are regulated by the RBI. So primarily, it is the Reserve Bank of India's responsibility. It is the Reserve Bank of India that has issued the guidelines that actually gives the licenses. But NABARD is also empowered to inspect state and central co-op banks. So while the RBI looks after banking related functions, the state and the center are responsible for management related functions. In fact, RBI has even on paper constituted a task force that monitors the viability of banks. And then the states decide basis the task force report on what has to be done, whether the management should be replaced, whether there's some liquidation, audit that has to be done. So this is the extent of regulation and scrutiny between the RBI and the state that should be present. And look what's still happening. Why is this going wrong is the big question. Abhishek Mishra, spokesperson of the BJP, joins us this evening. Tamal Bandyopadhyay, author and consulting editor with Business Standard. Shailesh Gandhi, former Chief Information Commissioner. Sundar Balakrishnan, a depositor with PMC Bank Chamber, also joins us this evening. And I want to start with Mr. Bandyopadhyay to help us understand, Mr. Bandyopadhyay, how does this happen, that there are statutory audits being done, but they're not going into the history of a loan account?
Yes.
That they've managed to scam the whole system for almost 6 years?
Yeah, I think more than that. No, more than 6 years. So, you know, it reminds me of the Satyam saga. That's a different context altogether. It's a different industry. But the Ramalinga Raju, in that case, Ramalinga Raju was the promoter of the thing when he confessed to the crime, if I may say so, that how he was riding a tiger and he could not contain. It's a very similar thing in this case, the gentleman, the MD. And probably if you read his letter, I have not read, but whatever I've been hearing, probably he thought that he was running a chocolate factory. He was not handling 11 lakh odd people's hard-earned money. So that's the case, and at a multiple level. The point is, as you rightly pointed out, there is a dual regulation kind of thing where the RBI is responsible for regulation and supervision. State government, respective state government is responsible for the management. So there is a dual regulation part of this. So who are you appointing, the chairman, who is the board, etc. That RBI typically does not look into it. RBI looks into the regulation part. My understanding is this: sometime 2007, through off-site inspection, the regulator got a sense that something was wrong, and at that point of time, the same gentleman, I think, spoke about an exposure of 250 odd crore. He was hiding, and next it came up to some 400 odd crore, and when RBI was asking him to classify it as a bad asset, he refused to do that. And what we have seen now, 75% of the entire depositors' money have got into one bank. So essentially, PMC had been HDIL, is this particular entity's bank. PHD is not a 11 lakh depositors bank. PMC is not a cooperative bank. PMC has been HDIL's bank. And so much so, when HDIL actually became a yes, so much so that when HDIL turned a defaulter to Bank of India, very recently PMC stepped in and gave it money again, some 100 odd crore to get out of that mess. So clearly, I mean, you can't have a bigger fraud than this. I think Madhapura, we understand that's a 2001 case, it played in the stock market and burnt his fingers. But here, I think it's the board, the chairman, the MD, all of them are involved, I guess. And which is why I think the administrator, the case have been filed, the FIR have been filed under section 120 and 409 of IPC. And they talk about criminal conspiracy and those kind of things, which I think minimum 2 years of imprisonment it calls for. But that's a separate story. It's a clear case of fraud and a series of on multiple front. Who doing the RBI and the depositors.
Right,
In a series of
absolutely.
ways. Point number one, the single borrower deposit. Point number one, just quickly, 30 seconds. Point number one, the single borrower exposure, it can't be 15%, more than 15%, it's 75%. Point number two, there should not be any connected lending, it had gone the connected lending. Point number three, it refused to identify as a bad assets, and it even went out to rig its entire system and create thousands and lakhs of dummy accounts to camouflage all this kind of stuff and all. So it's something unheard of, the way it has gone into this. I think it has put to shame even the PNB scam, not in terms of the money but the mechanism.
Yes.
PNB scam, at least one person was doing everything here, and here I think the entire board and the governance, I can't think of a worse corporate governance than this.
And checks and balances, where are the checks and balances? And I'm still, going to go back to the letter that he himself has written, and his audacity to come out and hold that news briefing, the ex-MD, where he's blaming the RBI of not giving them enough time. I think even now he doesn't realize what a big mistake he's done, like how he's cheated, colluded, and covered this whole thing up. Because in the letter, he genuinely goes on to say that he believes HDIL will return all the money. HDIL, viewers, is a bankrupt company. They have filed for bankruptcy. They have no money. All of their projects, especially in big cities like Mumbai, got stuck, got cancelled between 2011 and 2014. And then the real estate bubble burst. That's where they stand today. And this bank still kept giving them more and more money, still kept lying about it because they were concerned about their reputation. The ex-MD is giving you, the bank account holder, you, the depositor, the clarification that because HDIL gave this bank a little money in 1986 when they were having tough times, they allowed this company to do whatever they want, however much loan they wanted, however much advances they wanted, whenever they wanted over advance, they got it, and then they would repay it at their own will. Like Tamal Bandyopadhyay says, HDIL managed to treat PMC like their own piggy bank and got away with it. Mr. Shailesh Gandhi, how does that happen? How does it happen with two regulators in charge of looking at this system?
I think we need to understand that the primary fault and flaw is with the Reserve Bank of India. They are to be held accountable. What is the audit and inspection that they do in all the banks? That is a very, very weak link. And unfortunately, Reserve Bank of India has consciously chosen to become opaque about its transactions and dealings. In 1994, there was an RBI circular that said that all details of banks must be exposed to citizens. List of defaulters, list of audit reports, etc. Subsequently, over a period of time, they actually developed various labels for booking NPAs. Some NPA would be called an NPA, some would be called a CDR, some would be called an SDR, someone would be called something else. This is how they had started hiding the NPAs. It went further. When RTI came, people asked Reserve Bank of India to give audit reports and inspection reports of various banks, including failed banks. RBI refused to do this. As per the RTI Act, they were supposed to do it, and the Information Commission in 11-12 gave a series of 10 judgments, which I was responsible for, saying this information must be shared with citizens. They challenged them, fair enough. This went to the Supreme Court, and in December 2015, Supreme Court ruled that all this information must be given. That the concept that citizens are not mature enough is flawed. That the concept that RBI is the king who knows what is good for India is flawed. This was backed up by the Supreme Court judgment. RBI surprisingly decided to defy that order. A contempt petition was filed, and in this year, Supreme Court has given a warning to RBI not to flout the Supreme Court's order itself. Why is the RBI not being transparent? What is the harm? What are their audit reports and inspection reports meant for? Just for them to decide? They've taken a position almost as if I remember the story I had heard when I was young of the emperor who thought he was wearing transparent clothes. We are in a similar situation.
Right.
And I want to highlight one other aspect of this. This is a 10, 11,000 or 8,000 crore scam. Last year, in the last 1 year, over 1 lakh crores has been what is called recapitalized to the public sector banks. This is a similar story. We are every year giving away about 1 lakh crores, and this is not even being called a scam. We are unaware of this.
Right.
All of this must be put into public domain. Public sector banks are not doing well. It is just that taxpayers are subsidizing the public sector banks.
Absolutely. Let me just go across to Sundar Balakrishnan, and then Abhishek Mishra can respond to the points that are being raised. Mr. Sundar Balakrishnan, it's really infuriating, isn't it? And you find out that depositors' money has been wasted away like this and nobody bothered for so many years.
Yeah, Tanvi, I am telling you, I'll tell you, I'll go to much deeper level than Shailesh Gandhi sir, what he said. You know, in the company, there is somebody known as internal auditor. There is an external auditor. Then there is a peer-to-peer audit at the CA institute level. Then there is RBI auditor. Then there is, quarterly audit that is being done by the RBI. So many audits. Now, I just can't, agree to what MD is saying. He is acting on somebody's behalf from the management. He is acting like a puppet, according to me, because what is happening here is, if he is saying that he has been hiding it, he is hiding it for somebody else. And who else is that? Is the management and nobody else. And in this case, even RBI has to be pulled up. Now RBI goes for a quarterly audit to the banks, and they also submit the report. Even the chartered accountants submit the report of the yearly of all the loans. Now all the what you call the fake accounts, whatever you call, I just can't think of how can you create a fake account. Where is the auditor? You can't create a fake account. There has to be an account. There has to be a trail of all the money that has to come in, money that has gone out, and they have to book the interest each and every quarter. And when you book the interest, you are supposed to show that money interest has come in. You cannot credit the account of the customer showing that interest is yet to come. If interest is yet to come, and if that happens for a period of 6 months, that automatically goes as an NPA in the books of the accounts. Now, where is the auditor? What was he doing? And even the RBI was sleeping for all these years. I'm surprised. I put my investments in various banks. Now, out of 8,800 crores of loans outstanding.
So, Mr. Sundar Balakrishnan, let me say this. RBI was sleeping all these years. RBI, I think, briefly woke up last year.
Yeah.
Because there is a PTI story which says that the RBI sent a recommendation to the registrar of cooperative societies and said, please remove this man. They said, please remove the chairman, Varyam Singh, because he is linked to the irregularities. And then nothing happened. RBI, I think, went back to sleep.
Yeah.
And the registrar of cooperative societies, I don't know what they have been doing. I will go back to that point to Tamal in just a bit. But first, Abhishek Mishra, in the government's case, so they are admitting that they were sleeping. There is a comment from the MOS Finance today saying this is a wake-up call. It's an eye-opener. What do you mean by saying it's an eye-opener? How do you not know what's going on in the cooperative bank sector?
They were sleeping for all this while. They woke up now.
The Honorable, now I have heard patiently, kindly, no one should disturb. The Honorable Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji today clearly said that in reply to a person or depositor that the RBI was responsible for running and regulating the cooperative bank. So point number one, that should be very clear. So somebody was laughing just now, do not laugh. Go by law.
No,
Second
I just told you the regulations.
MD,
did you listen at all or not? Maybe you also need to listen
don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. I haven't interrupted anybody. I kept silent all this while.
Also responsible, which means the state and the central government. If the RBI sends a letter saying, please remove this chairman, why wasn't it done by an authority that is under the regulation of the state government?
State government, yes.
Okay, so now let me go ahead. Mr. Sundar, I didn't interrupt you. The MD of this bank, the former MD, okay, he has written a letter to the RBI where he has clearly revealed that the promoter of the HDIL, the Vadhavan family, and the PMC Bank, how they were in collusion. Now, the former MD clearly states he writes clearly that he concealed information from the board, the auditors, and regulators. The former MD of the bank is clearly saying that he concealed information from the board, the auditors, and regulators, and he replaced stressed accounts with dummy accounts. And more important than that, the former MD who has done this immense fraud on our honest tax-paying depositors, our citizens of this country, this MD who has been booked today in FIR, he'll go to jail and he'll have to pay.
But
what does the MD write further? He writes
but you're
that
not
all the
answering my
decisions
question.
of granting, Tanvi Shukla, do not interrupt. Do not interrupt.
You're not answering my question. I don't want you to repeat the letter I've already read out twice.
Let the truth come out.
But you're reading the letter I've already read out twice, Abhishek Mishra. Calm down.
No, you're not at
Your money has not been taken away. Unless you were a depositor in PMC, I don't know what you're getting so agitated about, Abhishek Mishra. Calm down. I've already read out this letter twice.
Let me complete. Your
Answer
agenda
my
is exposed.
question.
Let me complete.
Answer my question.
Now, people of India,
Answer my question,
the
Abhishek
MD
Mishra.
clearly writes in his letter to RBI. He says all the decisions for granting of overdraws to these accounts was as per my instruction. The MD gave personal instructions to cheat the depositors of PMC Bank.
So why did you remove him? Exactly what I'm asking you. Why wasn't he removed when the RBI said remove him a year ago? Why did you wait for a year to investigate? If the RBI knew a year ago there were irregularities, why did the Registrar of Cooperative Societies not take any action?
Tanvi Shukla, let me speak the truth. Let people know the truth.
Everybody knows you're citing from the letter, which is the truth, Abhishek Mishra.
Cheat the RBI. No.
But you're not answering my question. I don't have the time for that. I have the last question for Mr. Tamal Vadhopadhyay before I wrap this up. Mr. Tamal Vadhopadhyay, can I just understand this, sir?
How did he cheat the RBI?
If the RBI was aware of irregularities, went to the extent of writing a recommendation letter to the ROC saying, please get rid of this man, then why didn't anything happen for a year? Who should we ask that question to?
Tanvi, actually, no, if you have to see that cooperative bank is a different kind of animal. I am not talking in reference to this particular bank, but by and large, and you don't need me to tell, you can ask anybody who is even half familiar with the banking industry in India. Cooperative bank is essentially is a political animal. You know, and I think in 1966, sometime RBI walked in, and there is a division of labor, division of responsibility between RBI and the government. But essentially, all the cooperative banks, or most of the cooperative banks, are political animals, and there are affiliations of politicians of different hues and colors. So it's not like it's not a straitjacket case that you want to do something. Even if you want to do something, you can't do certain things. Right. And definitely, this MD either he is covering up the entire thing on behalf of many others, because one person cannot do that. Probably it's a sort of mercy petition that he thought that the regulator would have pity on him, and the punishment would be less if he confessed all this. Why did he confess 6 years back? Why is he coming now after RBI got into the act?
But perhaps, Mr. Vadhopadhyay, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
That's a different question. But why did
perhaps he knew he was cornered and caught this time. All this while he was hoping he gets away with it. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. I'm completely out of time. But as we do wrap this up, here is an update coming in. A news report suggests that a lookout circular has also been issued against the MD and director of HDIL. We are all waking up now. The RBI is, the government is, Economic Offences Wing of the Mumbai Police is waking up a week after the story came out, and action is only beginning to happen now. If everybody knew, like our experts are saying, that there is a big mess, there is a massive problem with the regulation of cooperative banks, that there is a big mess, there's a situation